Tameva mata chapita tameva, tameva bandusha sukha saka tameva, tameva vidya dravidam tameva, tameva sarvam mama deva deva. You are my mother, you are my father, my relative. You alone are my friend, you alone are my knowledge and my only wealth. You are the supreme of all gods. You are everything to me. Om Guru Brahma Guru Vishnu Guru Devo Maheshwara Guru Sakshat Para Brahma Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. We bow down to that Guru, who is the supreme in the form of the creator, the pervading preserver, and the dissolver. He is the supreme Lord himself. So this is kind of part two from carrying on from this morning, the importance of a guru. And now, how do we learn from a guru? You see, with the COVID crisis, if you want to call it like that, we've all had to learn a lot of things. How to wear masks, how to do all kinds of things.
How to wash hands.
How to wash hands, yes. And so it's the same with spiritual life. We have to learn how to wash the mind as well. And the mask is temporary. The mask, of course, we call persona, personality. Persona is Greek. It means a mask. This mask is called aham, I. And so why do we employ all these helps and aids and techniques? Scripture, guru, ritual, puja, meditation. It is with a view to cleaning the mind. And in cleaning the mind, to replace the egocentric position, and make it an open channel for divine grace to flow. And to tap into the Guru's flow is that relationship between the Guru and the Siksha, the disciple, the student. But to learn anything, we have to be open. I was very tempted to make fun today because we were talking about all the restrictive measures here. I was thinking inventing new ones. So please knock on the door and repeat the mantra for the day. It's a kind of password. And then come in and somebody will shoot you with something that, under the guise of taking your temperature, and please, at the end of it, burn your shoes. So these are extreme measures, but sometimes extreme measures are necessary. And the Guru knows how to impart the knowledge by being flexible, adaptable, and understanding this particular egocentric view of his disciple or her disciple. A kind of insight into the particular structure of the mask that the student has. And in the first part this morning, we mentioned some of the qualifications necessary for a guru. So I remind you, Shrotriya must be conversant with the purport of scripture, just to remind you. Not necessarily a scholar. In fact, there are all these examples of non-scholarly gurus. We heard probably yesterday how about Latu Maharaj, how he was not learned anyway, but it was not necessary. When other young people, younger than him, related what was in the scripture, he reflected on it and gave his stamp of authority. He said, yes, that's correct. From his own direct experience, it's there. It's the direct experience which is the final proof of anything, be it in science or otherwise. That person has to be, the Guru has to be intimately connected with cosmic mind. We can call it Brahman, but that aspect of cosmic mind means that my individual will and the divine will are nicely attuned and aligned, which means that the Guru, whatever the Guru imparts from that point of view, in alignment with cosmic mind, is naturally true and universal. And then, of course, the Guru has no motive whatsoever. We mentioned this. Not for name, not for fame, not for wealth, not for stature. And the characteristic of that would be humility. And the Guru has to be of absolutely pure mind. And for that reason, these terms, Guru and teacher and all of these things are like a prick, if you will, in the skin of the Guru. This is mentioned specifically by Sri Ramakrishna. And then we also mentioned, of course, the idea that there are different kinds of teachers, but the kind of spiritual teacher that we're talking about generally will impart this spiritual impetus, this huge drive, this great energy from age to age, from person to person, passing on a kind of candle, if you like, a flame from a central flame. And that central flame is the Jagat Guru, the Supreme God, carrying that flame and giving it to others. In the Christian tradition, there's a beautiful ceremony that something like Diwali, but at Easter time, when on a Saturday evening, a big bonfire is made. This bonfire is made in a controlled way, just in case you're thinking of health and safety and so on. And a central huge candle is lit, representing this cosmic mind. Christian language calls it Christ. You can say cosmic Christ, carried into a dark church. The church represents a cave of the heart, if we look at it in this way. And of course, this lights up the whole area, but you'll find individual candles being lit from that central light. And by the time the central candle has been taken up to the front, the church is ablaze with this candle light. So this is the light, the central light, and we can easily see how the greatest teachers are the avatars, those who descended specifically from this cosmic mind, from age to age, to teach us enduring message. The enduring message is only one. You are divine. Please know it. And this is what you have to learn from the Guru. In fact, it's probably the only thing you have to learn from the Guru, except how to do it. That's the most difficult point. Difficult because we have our own agenda. We have our own way of viewing things. We have our own drive. And this drive is always, more or less always anyway, egocentrically orientated. To make you unselfish and to give you freedom. What will the Guru do in generosity? It will be something like politeness. You please go through the door. Now you, now you, now you, now me last. Please get your freedom and liberation. This would be the most selfless position anybody can take. So there are other means, Shakti. This is what the supreme gurus of avatars, they impart. That means there doesn't have to be necessarily physical contact with them. By a mere look, by a mere thought, they being absolutely attuned to cosmic mind, they immediately transcend all barriers of time and space. But for the other kinds of gurus, the Diksha gurus, they give you some mantra, but it is like an uncut diamond, is what I mentioned this morning. You have to refine it yourself. If you don't refine it yourself, then it's something like a piece of rock kept on a shelf. It has no value. Of course, it always has potential value. And so the one quality, I suppose, above all else, that a student has to have in order to learn from the teacher, a certain atmosphere, a certain understanding of openness. Openness means unselfishness. When a flower closes up, it becomes narrow, it becomes miserly. But when it opens up, it becomes generous. It faces the sun. and walks toward it. So we have to be open-minded and receptive, and therefore it's a match. There are gurus around, but are there willing recipients? Are there people who are willing to commit to the rigors of spiritual life and submit to the teacher? And also have the understanding that this guru, you can see all the praise of the guru, is God. I mentioned this morning, is a very difficult concept. Particularly in Western countries, it's a difficult concept. How do we prepare ourselves to receive any teaching that comes from the transcendent Lord? And how do we overcome any idea of the humanity? Of course, there's a human dimension to everybody. Every human has a human dimension. And I mentioned this morning how this query came up in relation to the Holy Mother. The Holy Mother is such a great guru, and yet seen to be such an ordinary person, doing washing up, doing cleaning, doing all the chores of a typical rural woman, managing a family, managing all the various difficulties and challenges that all of these domestic environments provide, and coping with them, but from a different point of view. A point of view that was laden and saturated with love. Every activity out of love. Every person encountered seemed to be the embodiment of God. This attitude is there, and that makes the world of difference. So to come into the very atmosphere of such a teacher becomes elevating. I mentioned this morning that there were various types of teachers, from the teacher that imparts mere education, eventually to the Jagat Guru, God himself. But of course, an additional guru has been added called Upaguru. That is, any guru, in the absence of your Diksha Guru, any guru who is useful to you and could be your guru, but you have that relationship with them, you can imagine that's also God coming in this form. So I should tell you a few things about how I came across my guru. You see, I register that my first guru was my mother and my father. These were my first gurus. They taught me. Without them, no biological life. Without biological life, no opportunity to expand into spiritual life. And I grew up in a very sacred environment. So another guru in my childhood, I may have been 5 or something, would have been a certain Benedictine monk. He was an amazingly holy man, and he taught me the beauties of reflection, contemplation, as well as fun. He was a psychologist, and I had developed an interest in, actually he was a psychiatrist, probably, but he enabled me to develop an interest in the human mind at such a young age. And he introduced me to a variety of music. When you look back on your life, you identify some milestones. One milestone is what I call the Father Oswald Cultural Show. He introduced me to Paraguayan music, he introduced me to all kinds of music that I had never heard before, and gave me an open mind about cultural things. And then you see, there was a great, great man who visited my home country, Zimbabwe. It was Rhodesia at that time. I was probably about 14, 15. And I had gotten a tragedy in my life that left me searching. So at a young age, I searched. Searching has to be there in every student. In fact, spiritual life begins with dissatisfaction. If you're dissatisfied, congratulations. Dissatisfaction with what we have now as a material world. Dissatisfaction that there are no answers within my grasp. not easily reached. And this dissatisfaction should set a little flame going inside you that really corresponds to your natural tendency toward freedom. Yesterday we talked about freedom and evolving toward freedom. But I didn't really expand on that. See, the whole idea of evolution in the Vedanta system is that evolution requires involution. This is Swami Vivekananda's language. There was a great famous paleontologist who didn't know any of this, but for himself discovered that there was a cosmic connection between everything. And being a paleontologist, and actually a scientist, was thoroughly indoctrinated in biological evolution, evolutionary process. But questions arose with no answers. Where does this evolution come from? What is the abiogenesis factor in it? And how is it that there is such beauty and rhythm and complexity in life? And he was a Catholic priest. His name was Desjardins. And he invented some terms. Noosphere is a term he invented. He thought there was a biosphere. There was also a geosphere. But there's also a noosphere, a kind of spiritual dimension that incorporates mind. And he came to a conclusion. There is cosmic mind. Can you see how truth resonates in every era, in every situation, regardless? Truth gets revealed. It gets discovered. That means it was already there. It wasn't something invented. Discovery means already there. I just uncover something and then discover it. We have to uncover our Supreme Self by removing the mask, no, not now, of ignorance. So removing the mask of ignorance is what our task is. And it's not easy, nor is it meant to be easy, but the Guru will show you how. Tailor-made for you. And so we find many, many examples. Sri Ramakrishna taught in so many funny ways. He taught Hari, the wrestler devotee, by wrestling. He taught Swami Vivekananda non-dualism in the face of obstruction and in the face of demonstration by gently saying, please read me this Astavakra Samhita. Oh, I don't believe in that non-dualism nonsense. Do you mean to say the plate is God, this floor is God, the air is God, the ceiling is God? That's ridiculous. Let me laugh about it. Ramakrishna overheard this a little bit. He didn't try and persuade him otherwise. He said, please read me this book. And when he found the objection, he said, just do it out of love for me. I want to hear it. And from that, he became convinced, a thorough non-dualist. But would he have accepted it in any other way if somebody had forced him, please accept this, here's the logic and so on? He was a very logical person. But it took the Guru's love and the Guru's diplomacy and understanding of the person, the individual, to impart this wisdom and make a transformation. So this is why the Guru is skilled, because it's not some inventiveness or creativeness that is individual to the person. It is not some invention of the individual. It is waiting. Waiting until you get a green light from God. Having the capacity to put your ego aside and wait and hear the message coming through. So that when the Guru speaks, he is truly the conduit. You remember the example I gave this morning of the great lake and how pipes can be connected, and at the end is a faucet or a tap. That tap is the Guru, and it can be opened. But effort is required to open. But God's grace, there's no effort. Effortlessly. Effortlessly it flows. God's grace is always flowing effortlessly, but it takes a little effort, starting with resolution to catch it. So for this reason, the student will have to have certain qualities, and these are mentioned. Firstly, the capacity to discern. In other words, starting off with being dissatisfied. I'm not satisfied with all of this, and I see a hollowness. When you read the Katha Upanishad, you'll find this dissatisfaction appearing in a story with Nachiketa. He wants to know, he's curious. Maybe he's 12 years old or so, and he wants to know, and he's not satisfied with any of the answers or any of the temptations that come his way. Thousands, hundreds of temptations come to us, and we swallow them hook, line and sinker, but occasionally we catch on to something. And so we realize that this is a part of unfolding, a natural unfolding that we call evolution. And when Swami Vivekananda talks about involution, he's saying, and using the example, if a seed is there, it has to evolve. Unfold is the literal meaning of the word evolve. It unfolds into a tree. And evolution, evolving, unfolding, this is a natural process. It happens by itself. We can also call it growth. Growth happens by itself. But when you water the plant, when you give it sunshine, nutrients, it grows much healthier, much faster. And so the Lord of the universe, God of love, is supplying the whole of the biosphere, the whole of the geosphere, the whole of the noosphere, in order for us to grow and unfold. You can't go to a plant outside in the garden and take it by the head and say, come on, today, 2 inches, we're going to grow, and yank it. It doesn't work. The growth is happening from inside. The flower knows how to internally take all it needs from the soil. It doesn't require an education to do it. This knowledge unfolds from within, but the guru is necessary as a catalyst. So, an open mind, a discerning mind, a detached mind, but above all, a yearning has to be there. A desperate thirst. If you do not have a thirst, you won't get it. For anything. Just to remind you that I put things in F's and D's and so on. So 3 D's are there if you want anything in life. Desire has to be there. Strong, all-consuming desire. Magnificent obsession has to be there. Eat it, drink it, sleep it. And then there has to be a determination that whenever any obstacles in the way, it doesn't matter, we still persist. And then ultimately, dedication has to be there. We have to stick at it. And that is why Sister Nivedita is called Sister Nivedita. Margaret Elizabeth's novel is called Nivedita, the dedicated one. So this dedication has to be there. Then there has to be a purity of mind, what we call the 6 treasures, including forbearance, concentration. Tapasya means creating friction. You lead your normal everyday life and are happy with your status quo, you won't get anywhere. Even in spiritual life, having gotten diksha and all the opportunities that are available to you, you won't get anywhere unless there is a deepening of spiritual life every day. Every day, you have to follow the Guru's teachings. For you, not for somebody else, for you. Tailor-made design for you. And practice them with love and discipline. And that is why when the mantra that is given is repeated, a mental salutation has to be there to the Guru. And after the mental salutation, entrench the Guru in the heart. See that the Guru is one with your Ishtadevata, your chosen ideal. And at that point, you repeat your mantra in an invitational way, inviting the Lord there, to be there and to stay there. These are all qualities that are required. I go back now to my own story. So there was a visiting man when I was about 14, 15, and when I had a searching mind and was dissatisfied. This man was a very great saint. His name was Swami Chidananda. He was the president of what was called the Divine Life Society. And those people who went on pilgrimage with me, maybe who are listening to me now on the Zoom, who traveled with me to India in January, will have gone to Rishikesh and gone to the headquarters there of the Divine Life Society. And I was treated extremely well, extreme reverence and love. And they didn't know, you see, that my guru, my Upaguru at that point, was this great Swami Chidananda. I saw him at the Liberty Cinema in Salisbury, as it was then, and was immediately impressed. And so I made a point of going as a teenager on my bicycle. We weren't raising funds even in those days, but still on the bicycle. And then I insisted I would ask some questions. Patiently, he answered them, and we became lifelong correspondents. I was a mere 14, 15, and he was probably near his 60s at the time. And he said to me, I'm not staying here very long, but there's somebody you need to meet. And his name was Swami Nisrasananda. And Swami Nisrasananda, a senior monk of the Ramakrishna Mission and a disciple of Mahapurush Maharaj, who was a disciple of Sri Ramakrishna, the second president of the Ramakrishna Mission. And I learned from him many, many things, including yoga exercise. But you see, he wasn't the Diksha Guru. And he pointed to me who the Diksha Guru was. And the Diksha Guru was disciple of Holy Mother, Swami Vireshwarananda Prabhu Maharaj. And he, because of the motherly connection there, because I never mentioned the tragedy, so-called tragedy, when I was a teenager, my mother died. And so there it was, the mother coming back again. Now see the cosmic mind connection. Swami Chidananda, Divine Life Society, was my guru's cousin. Imagine, you can see the divine helmsman operating in everywhere and everything. So how many Upagurus do we have? So many. It's the same God whose hand is working here, working there, working there. So if we go to the Srimad Bhagavatam, we find the 11th chapter of it is separately published as last message of Krishna, otherwise called Uddhava Gita. There we find the story of the Avaduta who has 24 gurus. And Krishna says, learning from one guru alone is neither adequate nor desirable. And what he's saying is not that there should not be one guru, but you have to look everywhere for the hand of God, everywhere for the flowing influence of God's grace. So let's examine some of these gurus. Not all of them were human. One was a bee. See, mountain, earth, so on. That means everywhere we look, everywhere where the senses are open, the eyes, the ears, the touch, the taste, and so on, we need to see, oh Lord, you are there. I recognize you, and you are there for my good and my benefit. You see yesterday's exercise, even looking back to so-called bad experiences, we see them as good opportunities. Some people would have said to me when I was 14, 15, what a pity, your mother died, such a tender age, and so on. Hindsight tells me, without that event, none of the spiritual life would have flown. It would all have been restricted. Everything is God's grace. It's not an unfortunate thing. It's a gap that Lord himself fills. And so we have to have this open mind to be prepared to learn from the Guru and be attuned to the Guru, and also to be attuned to the specific way that Guru thinks. The Srimad Bhagavad Gita asks us this question, having described somebody of Sthita Prajna, steady wisdom. The question is asked, how does that person walk? How do they talk? How do they move? A wonderful question. You see, you heard earlier about the imitation of Christ. Swami Vivekananda, at a tender age, wrote an introduction in Bengali to this imitation of Christ, knowing that These great giants are there for us to imitate. We have to follow their every way of behaving, because their behavior will be an expression of their inner spiritual life, their inner wiring, if you like. How was the person wired? How did he talk? How did he walk? How did he behave? The general description is immune to any pair of opposites, praise, blame, hot, cold, whatever it is. The pairs of opposites, as they call, pleasure, pain, psychologically that's where it is, or praise and blame. Somebody praises you, you feel elated. You did such a good job. Oh, I saw you on YouTube. Oh, wonderful. The next day, I saw you on YouTube. Oh, terrible. If I inflate and deflate at this rate, I'll be like a perpetual balloon. But it's the ego that's inflating and deflating, you see. Who cares? Who cares what people think of you? It's only the body, it's only a certain temporary behavior, personality carried over. We're all struggling in this way, participating in this evolutionary process of unfolding. And the Guru is the most important component in it. And that is why the Guru is given such high praise. The Guru is God. You have to overcome your sense of limitations, particularly Western people, thinking no man or woman can ever be matched in this way. It would be sacrilege. It would be a complete sacrilege and anathema to even think that a man is God, other than a special incarnation. Then you have it wrong. Because this is the very conduit that you need. One great guru was, in Christianity, Francis of Assisi. And his prayer is well known by everybody. Make me an instrument of your peace. I mean, instrument. You'll be a channel, an instrument, nothing more. If there's any other point of view about it, that person is no longer guru. So it has to be a habitual state. So these 24 gurus are there, and we have to take these gurus in a special way and be thankful for the grace of the guru. Some people say, oh, but I don't have a guru. Is it necessary? I mentioned all this morning. I don't want to cover it again. Yes, it's necessary, but I haven't got one. When will I get one? Well, you have to wait. You have to prepare the ground first. You have to prepare the soil, plant the seed. And then you see, as we discussed this morning, you gave me completed the statement, when the student is ready.
The disciple arrives.
No.
Sorry, the guru.
All good, yes. So when the student is ready, or the disciple is ready. Of course, the student is not a disciple until that engagement comes along. And then it's a special engagement, but we have to be prepared to learn. And part of that is challenging. See how Swami Vivekananda, how Swamiji challenged Sri Ramakrishna left, right, and center. And many challenged in different ways. And Ramakrishna said, if it would have been anybody else, any other guru, he would have told you, go away. But you see, this is the guru who sees the potential in you and wants to bring it out in an individual way. And so that match has to be there. And will be there. You can see how dearly I loved this guru of mine in Zimbabwe and loved him to his 91st, 92nd year when he passed away. He was born in 1899 and loved him so dearly. But you see, he was not the Diksha Guru. And yet, you see, he was. Because it's the same one. It's the different dimensions of the same entity. And since I'm in Zimbabwe and my Diksha Guru is in India, then that distance is difficult. Plus the status of the man. So talking about Mahapurush Maharaj and how he taught, you see there was still an understanding of all these kinds of, never mind about the COVID virus, but the idea of untouchability. Somebody eats from a plate, you can't eat from it. And you can't associate with certain people because of caste restrictions and so on. Noticing this, Mahapurush Maharaj, as was his wont, was sitting smoking a hookah, as they all did. And he called one, come, come, come. Please smoke this. Oh, I can't, you did it. And then before he knew it, the stem was in his mouth. And from that, the student learned, oh, I see. All these things, if this such a great man doesn't mind, because immediately he put it back in his own mouth. See the subtle way he taught. And we may not understand the subtleties of this teaching. So my own guru, he was asked by Swami Purnananda, please go and fetch me some water. Now, as you know, the Ganga there, by Belur Math, is sometimes saline, because the tide comes in and all that, like an estuary. Brackish. And he came back with no water. I told you, go and get the water. You don't understand, Maharaj. It's all brackish. They're still go and get it. So he's made to go and get it. Now I can imagine, you see, a normal human being mumbling. What he does, yeah. That's nonsense, Anyway, collecting the water, coming back. All right, he said it, I have to do it. And then, of course, it was to wash the feet. It wasn't to drink. He misunderstood completely. And while he learned the lesson, because many times, you say, if you disobey the Guru in these small things, then the big things you won't get. You'll disobey in the big things also. And so these subtle ways of teaching are there because of this alignment with this cosmic mind. So it's now 5:15, and the program says that we should meditate. Let us clothe ourselves in complete silence. Let us relax the body by taking a long, deep, indrawn breath through the nose. And let it out as a sigh and relax the body. You can do it through the open mouth. Just ensure that the chest, the head, and the neck is arranged in a straight line. And let us immediately put ourselves in the atmosphere and presence of the divine. Something like the warmth and atmosphere of the all-pervading sun, that which is pure consciousness, that which is infinite consciousness, that flows inside and out with no boundaries. Let us imagine that we are in the presence of the deep blue sky, where no boundaries are present. It goes on infinitely. And this represents for us this pure consciousness that comes to us as behavior and intelligence. Let us understand that this is also pure bliss and love. Let us feel its presence in a living and vibrant way. Let us make our mental salutations to all those rishis, particularly Vyasa Rishi, on this Vyasa Purnima. Let us see how that being was tuned in to what we call Brahma, or cosmic mind. And because of his listening and capacity to be a free expression, collated and coordinated all the Vedas, systematized them, created the Mahabharata, wherein we find Srimad Bhagavad Gita and Puranas. Giving a renaissance, a new turn of mind to humanity, and in tune with yesterday's celebration, let us jump forward in time and give our salutations to that other great Rishi who spread the message in a revolutionary way, Swami Vivekananda, and his Guru, the incomparable Master, Sri Ramakrishna. Let us reflect how the trio which we see, Ramakrishna, Holy Mother, Swamiji, are embodiments of the triune nature of the divine, with its capacity to create, with the energy of Saraswati, Holy Mother, the capacity to preserve and change direction of people's lives for thousands of years in the form of Sri Ramakrishna, capacity to dissolve all our ignorance in the form of Swamiji. We cannot have one without the other. This Trinity that is before us are the great teachers of the world in modern times. Let us shift our salutations to our own Guru. To make a mental salutation to that one, he or she. Let us make a salutation to that flow that we call a lineage behind them. Guru after Guru. Seeing God's grace flowing in all of these. And finally, let us make a salutation to our chosen ideal. Let us pick up the central mantra. We can repeat it 3 times. We do it by taking a long, deep, in-drawn breath. And as we exhale, we can repeat the universal sound mantra of Om, starting now. Let us think of our own individual mantra, but if you have not got a mantra, think of Om. reflect a little on its meaning. Allow it to act as an invitation for the divine to enter into, as it were, your heart. Let us observe from a distant place the comings and goings in the field of the mind. Let us calm the traffic. Let us not repress anything, but allow thoughts and feelings to come and go. Lovingly, kindly, with a sense of gentle fun. Allow these to have their display and leave. Let us feel that we are the untouched sublime observer of all of these activities. Assert, I am not the body, I am not the mind, I am the observer of the body, I am the observer of the mind. Let us draw our attention to the center of our being, called the heart. Let us there imagine from the inner core a point of light. Let us imagine that within this light is a point of light. And within that, a tiny, small point of light. Let us feel how this internal, inner light expands its pure consciousness and radiates progressively everywhere. From this radiating light, let our most beloved form of God emerge and be seated in the throne room of the mind. Let us imagine how our Guru emerges from that and sits. Let us drink the holy water of the Guru's feet. Take the food that the Guru leaves to eat. Let us always meditate on the Guru's form. Let us constantly repeat the mantra the Guru has given. Let us understand that any place where the Guru dwells is the holy land of Kashi. The water that washes the Guru's feet is the Ganges, and the Guru is the Lord of the universe, perceptible to the eyes. Indeed, the Guru is Brahma, the Savior. With your heart absorbed in nothing but the Guru, let go of attachments to your status, whether it be that of a student, or a spouse, or a parent. Regardless of your social standing, fame, and cravings for accumulating wealth. It is true that those who direct all their thoughts to God alone achieve the highest state. The supreme state can also be attained by wholehearted worship of the Guru, who is Shiva, manifest in human form. These words are taken from the Guru Gita, purportedly authored by Vyasa Rishi. Let us allow the mind to be absorbed in these words. Let all forms retract into supreme consciousness, one without a second. Does remain in the voice of God that is stillness. Now in your own time, open your eyes and stretch your limbs.